Alright, I want to give my bit on my best tablet, pad, slate, you name it, whatever. Many of you have asked, hey, are you going to get the iPad? What are you going to do? Are you going to wait for the iPad 2 and all this other stuff? To answer that, you have to understand my position on how I feel about these devices, tablet, PCs, iPads, slates, what you name it. Currently the king of such devices is the iPad. But it really isn't the only device that is a tablet. We can consider it really an extremely successful tablet-like device. But I don't consider the iPad to be a tablet, and I'll explain. Jobs, when he gave the keynote, created, or had his own definition, he created a space, and what he stated was a market in between a smartphone and a laptop. He stipulated that it had to have key tasks that it did better than both devices, whether it was a smartphone or a laptop. Tasks like web browsing, email, photos, video, games, music, ebooks. My definition of a tablet comes from the history that I've had with them in the early 2000s. And that, yes, is regarding like tablet PC and the Windows XP tablet edition and things like that, because I definitely worked with those versions. I had a big involvement in healthcare and also logistics type business like inventory systems and things like that. The tablet back then and the purposes for its invention were to capture human input, signatures, easily altering documents via human input that are far faster than using the typical mouse cursor. It was a way to make human input more accurate, such as using a pen or a stylus to get that accuracy if you were needing to draw something or articulate some sort of point in a graph, what have you. Far better than a finger can deliver. Gestures, which many of you may have on your mind in terms of when you're thinking of tablets, are not human input. They are simply an alternative cursor execution. Of course, those tablets didn't take off as well. I think two major problems out of probably others would be, one, it ran Windows, meaning it inherited everything that everyone complains about Windows, and two, the price. But boy, was there plenty of them out there, at least in the markets that I worked with. And there are still many of them out there today, where I cannot see the iPad ever entering into, especially within the medical fields in terms of capturing patient signatures and doctors and things that are being written up, and manipulation of charts and all this other stuff, within logistics and the quickness of the stylus and needing for specific forms and input into these different forms and such to send you name it out. I cannot see actually any of the upcoming tablets or pads or what have you ever really replacing that niche. Yet, anyway. So whatever you want to call the device, a tablet, PC, a slate, a Zoom, an iPad, a smart top, what have you. I've heard all kinds of names for it. To me, the device, if I'm going to use such a device like the iPad or touchpad or playbook, it needs to be an extension device. It needs to extend features from my smartphone and features from my desktop. In other words, it needs to give me the screen real estate my smartphone lacks, but not make me dependent on my smartphone if I am using this device. In other words, it also needs to bring in the phone function of my phone if needed, and some function from my desktop, but much more portable. So as of now, yes, I've checked the competition. I've used an iPad on many occasions. I've seen the Galaxies and things like that. None of what is currently released really excites me at all. One of the big features that I did talk about in my first iPad video was the ability to have critical phone function coming in. And I was laughed at, but it's ironic that I'm beginning to see this functionality coming to play in pairing of devices with pads and phones and bringing in SMS and MMS and the ability to have Bluetooth sync up or use mic and video calling. So it wasn't as far-fetched when I was talking about bringing phone functions over to such devices. Along with that pairing, I'm expecting communication among devices. That has also been very critical, and I actually looked into making applications that were going to do that, but found that the APIs were very limiting in trying to deliver that. But I'm going to wait and see what the new features are going to be coming in the up and coming devices. That said, I can't agree with Jobs in saying that the iPad or really these devices in their key tasks as defined, web browsing, email, and photos and such, are better than what I can get in my laptop. Yes, in my smartphone on many regards, but I really never considered my smartphone to be a heavy music player to show photos or to watch videos on or what have you. But web browsing and email, I would say most of those tasks are on par, and a few of them are subpar with what I would expect on a laptop. Whatever your opinion is of web browsing on iPad, I'm sorry. Wherever your position is on Adobe Flash, it cannot be argued or debated because Flash is so ubiquitous that it should just simply be left out, for whether it's a personal grudge of companies or what have you. Thankfully, it is going to be brought within these next generation devices to actually give a better browsing experience and not have to worry about empty holes and things that whatever side you want to get on in terms of the technology, it sucks to go to a website and not get the full content delivered. Email is certainly not better in terms of what I've already used on the iPad and what I can get on my laptop or different applications that I can definitely install for managing my email. So it comes down to, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of money or lay down a whole lot of cash just to have a luxury item, really. I can't justify the cost for music when I already have devices that do that, or ebooks, which is remaining, or just for games. Maybe others can justify the cost. In my opinion, I can't. It's got to do more. Or maybe more is the wrong word. It's got to do other things for me than many of those things. Ebooks for me, I can't sit there and read an electronic device yet. I still like the texture and the feel and the smells of reading books and paper in my hands. And I've also found it very cumbersome to stay and stare at the iPad or Galaxy. It's too shiny, and I don't know if this complaint is with anybody else, but like lights from the ceiling tend to really glare down, and a laptop does allow you to angle that, and the reflection is not as bad on those shiny screens. So I have seen the Kindles, and they're quite nice in handling some of that, but I'm not really interested in having an ebook reader. I'm just not there. I have to have the real thing in my hands. So right now my top contenders are the HP touchpad and BlackBerry Playbook. There's a slight maybe with an Android honeycomb device, because I feel that with the use of applications and the way that the policies are within Android, that such applications deliver what I feel I need could be delivered. For now, I love the communication pairing between the phone and the touchpad and the way they receive calls and MMS and SMS. Very cool. Very, very, very cool. The other things that I need are FTP management, but I already have the software ready to go for terminaling in and or having Citrix sessions to do the type of things that I need over VPN or what have you, remote management. So that's most of the things that I need that are very much present within all the ecosystems, whether it is an iPad, touchpad, or Playbook. Of course, all of my other development expectations and office management things that I look for in such a device. And to me, it is well worth it to have and pay money so long as I have my needed functions for that extra screen real estate. Screen real estate is priceless in many regards. So that's where I stand, but I'm going to really wait till all of these generations are released. I'm going to give the iPad 2 a fair shot. If Apple rocks my world and all of a sudden just adds all kinds of neat functionality that I'm looking for, then it'll certainly be a contender. And perhaps they will be able to have, you know, the intercommunications and things that I'm looking for, and pushing SMS and MMS and phone functions over to the iPad. We'll see. You know, in further answering though what I expect this device to be in terms of an extension, it really goes into what Jobs did get right, and that we are in a post-PC world. Very much so, and that's something that I do like seeing. We have moved from the complexities and surpluses and massive problems and inefficient computing that really dominated the 90s and the most of the 2000s. And people and the consumers, I should say, the consumers are responding to really what they want, which is not much in terms of computing. They're not asking for a whole lot in what originally was the vision and what was expected to be delivered on computers of the 90s and early 2000s. We're getting more minimalistic, or simplistic maybe is the better word. We are able to get away with a lot of logistics because maybe it's cloud-based, or we have systems now that are mobile operating systems, true mobile operating systems that are delivering applications that are far more efficient in resources, but yet give us the same type of functionality. And so really we are in this post-PC world that may even go to the degree of kind of like the Motorola Atrix, where you have your small device and maybe it has your phone functions on it, and it's so small maybe at some point that it plugs into like a tablet device, and it's nothing more than we use docking devices, and we can bring the phone to work, or this device, not phone, but the smart device to work, to home, and what have you. And it's such that mobile hardware is getting so powerful that we can pull off such things for the majority of the computing that we need. But yet, in terms of what we're thinking, I know in Photoshop and programming, we'll always have the desktop. But is that really going to be the majority of our computing? Probably not. It's going to be the niche computing for what is the serious power computing in terms of it. And most people probably won't even want to worry about the logistics and buying such a device eventually. And some of the benefits of that are things that I have argued before: more efficient computing and application writing, even in terms of the architecture. As a side note, I don't know if anybody notices, if mobile devices or smaller devices hold direction and become the predominant source of our computing, Intel won't have so much to say. And it'll be really the return of RISC architecture as being the dominant architecture for our computing sources. Those of you who have watched my history know how what I talk about RISC, as a side note. So I hope that answers a lot of questions about my opinions on pads or slates or playbooks or touchpads, what have you. Thanks for watching.